The difference between winning the Revolutionary War in this country and losing it was the fact that George Washington actually listened to people, engineers and other people that the British generals didn't, because they were of different classes. We didn't make that mistake. We didn't make that distinction. We took advice from somebody, whether they came from Maine or South Carolina or the hills of remote Pennsylvania. It was like, okay, we listened. And we listened to each other, and we worked on implementation. Washington was a fine leader because of that. Now we want to, denigrate because of, some of his personal flaws. We do that well when we look back at things. Oh, they were good, but they had personal flaws. Well, everybody has their personal flaws. And I dare anybody that is out there evoking things historically, especially about other people, that they're not doing in some way, shape, or form, really, themselves. And so I look at that book. David McCullough was the author. That kind of book, again, I read a book for what I can get out of it. So it takes me a while, but the learning and some of it stays with me. So I had once I read that, I put a goal together to try to read something on every president, every leader in the country. And one of the ones I read about, it was a small book, but it was about James Madison. And James Madison wasn't the biggest guy, didn't have a great voice, was not oratorically great, but had the mind of somebody who really helped put forward. And one of the things, when you, again, in perspective of the times, he was the one that helped foster the Bill of Rights. And because there was arguments back and forth, and he was a devout Baptist, and it was, but it was at the time, the Anglicans were being paid. So they were being paid by some states, by some cities. So they were a state religion. So he fostered the Bill of Rights to say there should be no state religion. There is none. And he felt that we'd be better off if we just allowed then, so you practice the religion you want, as long as it doesn't violate, my rights or anybody else's rights. So there would be no religious law. It didn't say that we couldn't have laws influenced, but we're all influenced by our different backgrounds, education, whatever. But it can't be the law of the land if it's strictly because this church says so. It has to be because we agree that this is the best way to live as humans together.
Right. So when you read those books, do you just read it and then think for a little bit, or do you write down opinions?
Sometimes I write down opinions. Other times I reflect on it and start remembering it. But the thing with Madison that stands out to me the most was the fact that during the time when the Constitution was, when the Declaration of Independence was to be read, he came up with the idea it should be read at the same time all through the colonies. And through all 13 colonies at the same time, not, Philadelphia gets it first, or Pennsylvania or Boston or wherever, New York. He came up with the idea it should be read at all times so that we can congregate together and everybody gets inspired and we can really form the nation, the union that he felt, and then a lot of people felt at the time has to happen. Overcoming our differences, but forming so we can stand up to what we thought of tyranny at the time. And that was a great belief, an enlightened belief that I thought is still curious to this day to me, was that we are equal and capable of self-governing. Because when you've been ruled for centuries upon centuries by kings and actually believing there are special people, kings and queens and other people that can rule over you, when you've abdicated that to other people, now you've abdicated a huge amount of rights. That when you believe that, there are serfs and I'm just always a serf and will always be a serf. No, they did not believe that. They believed that there could be steps to a better life.
Yeah.
So Madison came up with the grand idea of getting this done before there was any social media. You got to think of the times. There was no phones. There was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So send out town riders to every town, every village, every city that he could, and they would replicate it. And everybody would read it on such and such a day at noon, that the town crier in the middle of the town square would read it so all could hear it.
Mm.
And they would gather and stop all work, everything else, bring people from the farm fields in so everybody heard it all at once. And that was his idea.
Huh.
He executed it within 90-some%
Wow.
throughout the colonies. And it turned out to be one of the things that really propelled us into being able to form this union.
Huh.
So, I mean, Madison did that through his own, and how he put it all together and brilliance, persuaded other people, persuasion again,
Yeah.
communicated. And again, he was not the most inspiring speaker, but he was an idea person.
Mm-hmm.
And he endured a lot going back and forth between his farm in Philadelphia and all that. But he really felt that he was part of it. And he was a great friend there were opposites, complete opposites of George Washington.
Huh.
And he was a somewhat friend, but somewhat antagonist with Thomas Jefferson. You know, all these people did not get along like, hey, how are you doing? Great to see you.
Yeah.
They were not that kind of group. They all had their differences, but they all relished their differences. They all put aside them. They all took big risks to form what was necessary at that time.
Huh.
And they all had, not all, but majority had, their own personal flaws.
Mm-hmm.
They were humans.
Right.
And yet they were able to, at least get this started. And that's all they thought about. They knew, and Lincoln knew, that they were just getting it started. And, and the 1860s, we're overcoming a great evil, with slavery, and we got to overcome that. And then it was the next and the next. So all of this has happened. And regardless of what people think, we've done it while maintaining the rights individually of our states, villages, or townships.
Mm-hmm.
We all have rights that are still unequivocal, and we were doing fine.